Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of the VZWBuzz recap. This is the Mobile Lifestyle Recap Chat, sponsored by Verizon Insider. And I am thrilled to have Jason Ramsey join us today to talk about mobile photography. How are you, Jay?
I'm good, Monica. How are you? Thanks for having me.
How is Wichita, Kansas?
Wichita is very cold right now, but it's supposed to warm up this weekend, so maybe I can get out and snap some pics.
Yeah, you share some beautiful pictures, and we're so grateful that you could come on. I know everyone probably knows we are part of a team of influencers, so we talk a lot about photography and we share tips on our devices, and we're going to try to recap some of the great tips that Robin, Jean, and Paul were sharing on the chat today. But before we do that, I want to show you all the Samsung Galaxy S5, which is our prize today. And this device is great. It's one of the smartphones of the year, and well, 2014, of course. And it actually works well underwater. So if you're interested in taking pictures, I know there are some that do like that, and I have taken quite a few pictures. Have you tried underwater pictures, Jason?
I've taken a few, but not many. But my problem is I don't like to get in the water.
To take it.
That's right.
So you can always pass it on, right?
That's
And
right.
have somebody else take the picture. But yeah, so this phone, we're going to award it because actually we want to know from one of you is going to win this by telling us what you learned during this chat. From Robin, from your peers, from everyone that was there, what are the top 3 nuggets that you learned that you're going to start using when you take your photos coming up? And I was actually quite taken, Jason, by the number, the percentage of people that are now exclusively using their smartphones for taking photos, right? I guess Robin quoted something like 75% of us are now strictly using our smartphones. How about you? You're still using some cameras sometimes?
I have a nice Canon, you know, takes really quality images, but I only get it out when we have a big concert or when we're taking a trip or something. Other than that, I mean, my iPhone 6 Plus takes as good of images of any camera I've ever had, with the exception of my big Canon. So there's really no reason to have a point and shoot anymore. I don't know how they can sell them.
Yeah, I was listening to Tommy Clifford. He was talking about how, he was looking for a camera that could zoom. And I guess that's one of the qualities that you look for in an actual camera, right? Although you can zoom with many of the smartphone that are out on the market today.
Well, the zoom function obviously is important. I think it's, especially with the iPhone 6 Plus, the zoom is probably as good as I've seen on a mobile device. But you have the same problem with the point and shoots. Depends on how much money you spend. I mean, the main difference is going to be between optical and digital zoom, and optical is always better.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. I actually have been taking a lot of pictures with the Samsung Galaxy Note 4, and the screen is so great. I think partially the reason I like it, I think the pictures are great, but I'm not an expert. But I love looking at them on this screen. And actually, one of the great things about it is filters. So I would love to share for people, what are some of the top filters out there that are easy to use that you have tried perhaps?
Honestly, the filters I don't know by name, but I can give you the apps that I enjoy using.
Yeah, the app, sorry, yeah.
And every app has filters, countless filters in them these days. But probably the app that I use the most is Snapseed. And it's very versatile. It does a lot of advanced stuff, but it's very easy to use. And so you can get some really sharp pictures and create some great effects without having to be a professional. Aviary is also another good one. It's a little more complicated for me personally to use, but it can actually do some things that Snapseed can't. I really like Snapseed because you can share directly to Google Plus, which you can't do with a lot of the apps.
Yeah, this is true. I loved one of the tips that Robin shared on aspect ratio and how, of course, when you're using Instagram, you have to do 1:1 so that it comes out square. Do you actually, when you post on Instagram, do you actually use the Instagram native app?
Hardly ever. You know, in the beginning I did before all the apps started coming out, but I can't tell you the last time I actually took a picture with Instagram. I just
Yeah.
don't do it.
That's interesting. Things do change. I did notice one of the shares. So Snapseed is a great app. I've been using Snapseed now, and all of a sudden I'm getting all kinds of likes on my phone, on my pictures, and I'm not doing anything different, honestly. It's just that that app is so great. It enhances and makes it sharper, and somehow you look like a pro. So try that. Android and/or iOS, I believe.
Yeah, I
Um,
work 3 to 1.
right, also. Some of the new phones out there really help a lot. Like the Droid Turbo has a 21 megapixel camera. Did you manage to take some good shots with that device, Jay?
Took some great shots with the turbo. Still use the turbo for shots sometimes. Um, it just blows me away. I mean, even I guess when I had the iPhone 5S, I thought that was so outstanding, and then I got the Droid Turbo, and it just blew me away. I couldn't believe how far it had come in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, this is true. Also, that Nokia Lumia that some of us had a chance to see last year, that icon had some great camera features. Some of the other apps that are great that I noticed have been using, you remember Photoshop. A lot of us have heard of Photoshop because designers use it and it sounded very intimidating. But Adobe Photoshop Express is one of those apps that it's fairly easy to use now, and you can really trim and make a lot of edits. Have you tried the Photoshop Express app at all?
I've tried it. It's been a while. The last time I tried it, though, you're right. It was easier than you thought it was going to be. And I remember when I downloaded it, I thought, well, I'm just going to give this a shot. I probably don't know enough about Photoshop to use it, but I was surprised at how easy it was. But
Yeah.
my problem is I download all the new apps that come out, so I have to go through once a week and delete apps that I'm not using.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, that one just didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut, didn't stay. And that was another great advice from the chat today, guys. If you just play around with the free apps, and if you find one that you're really comfortable with, then you can buy the upgraded version. Don't go crazy with the spend, but certainly that's another good way, just what Jason said, right? To try a bunch of different apps and then settle for the one that is most convenient for you, because there are so many out there you could try. There's also one called Perfectly Clear, which is also for Android, for example. And it's one of those apps, too, that allows you to really kind of sharpen your images. So feel free to play around with those. It's really kind of a free-for-all, trying to find the best one for you. Here, we have some favorites. I know Robin shared one. Is it let me see. I'm trying to look through the feed, but it was Photoshy, I think. And what some of these do too is also collages. And do you ever play around with apps that put certain things together, that maybe scrapbook or collage type applications, Jay?
Yeah, I have in the past. I really like Instacollage. It works really well.
Mm.
And Flipagram, which is not really a collage, it's more of a slideshow. But those are two that I really like.
That was Flipagram,
hmm
and the other one was
The other one was Instacollage.
Instacollage,
So
right?
that
That
the
sounds great.
Instacollage was the one that allows you to put images together in one image, whereas Flipagram you can make like a story and it'll slide through the images.
Yeah, that actually brings me to, I think you've heard me mention this before, to Animoto, and that's spelled Animoto, and it's such a simple app. If you input, 5 or 6 pictures, it'll create a really fun video with music for you. And, I just recently went to a ice carving event at the high school, took like 8 pictures, and then posted it for the PTA to share. And it was just such an easy thing. Honestly, it took me like less than 5 minutes to do. Just loaded the photos up, and Animoto did the rest. And all of a sudden, there was this great story about what the event was like for all of the other parents to see. Um, it's
It's
pretty
really
powerful.
amazing. Oh yeah, and then you put those things together, and really all you have to do is download the app and just play with it a little bit. Because I put some stuff together like that, and I know that my kids will be like, "Dad, how did you do that?" And I'm like, "Just use this app. It was real easy." And then of course when they download it and do it, it looks way better than mine.
Right, right. This is true. Sometimes you can leave it up to the experts to do a better job. Um, Photofy, rather. is what Robin was
That's the
mentioning is
one
one of
Robin
her
mentioned,
favorite
yeah.
apps. Yeah. Have you used that?
I haven't. Have you tried it?
No, but based on this chat, that's my next test.
I'm going to have to now, yeah.
One of the other things to talk about is what to do with all the pictures that we take, right? We take dozens and dozens. Oftentimes, people were mentioning on the chat they have, storage issues on their devices. What is your best advice for what to do with the pictures that you're taking as you're taking them?
There's a couple of different options. I can tell you what I do. I do a couple things. I have a couple of hard drives, 3 terabyte hard drives that I dump all my pictures to every time I sync my phones. I also use Flickr Pro, which has unlimited storage. So I actually have 2 points of access. So that way, if something happens to my hard drive, they're backed up online as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only like $25 for a whole year. Now, they recently increased their packages, and I think you can get up to 1 terabyte of storage on Flickr for free right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a Flickr account, that would be my suggestion, because you don't have to go out and buy a hard drive, and you get a lot of storage.
Yeah, yeah. The one of the other tips that I know we were sharing on the chat was take as many photos of this moment as you can. Pick the best one, but always delete the ones that you're not gonna want to keep. Because oftentimes it's very tedious and time-consuming, right, to go through the photos after the fact. So a good practice is to try to delete the photos that you don't think you're going to use and save the others on the cloud somewhere. Flickr is a great option. I always upload mine automatically onto my Dropbox account. And it's useful because no matter where I am or which device I'm accessing, pretty much the same way as Flickr, you can access them from anywhere and share them if you want. It's been very useful to have that because now I don't really worry which device I'm taking the photo from, right? They all go to the same place and they're stored on the cloud, and it doesn't matter if I lose my device or I damage my device, they're automatically backed up. So it's really important to try to make a practice of using the cloud. Now raise your hand over there if you still need a little help with understanding how the cloud helps, and we will be sure to clarify it further for you. Talk to me a little bit about just the concerts. I know you run the School of Rock in Wichita, and you must take a lot of photos and videos. What are your best practices for all those live concerts?
Well, I'm usually so busy at the concerts I don't have a lot of time to take pictures, but I always do. I always hire a professional photographer for the shows,
Mm-hmm.
But I have my camera too and my smartphone. Really, I think the biggest tip I could give anybody when taking pictures, no matter if it's at an indoor event like a concert or if you're just out shooting skyline or landscape, the angle at which you hold the device when you snap the shot makes a big difference. And try to move it up and down and see what it looks like, and even snap a picture at different angles and see which angle you like best. It's all about the way it looks to your eye. So don't be afraid to play with things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Robin was saying also, check the camera settings on your on that device, because oftentimes you have some great options built in right there. We talked about Beauty Face, which is on my on my Samsung. It's permanently on Beauty Face.
You always like the Beauty Face. I do remember that.
Yeah, it's always, that's my default. For not just for my own pictures, some people are grateful when you take a good picture of them too. But certainly you can play around with those settings as well, right? And the light and some advice that you've heard, like about have the sun behind you, and some of the basic other tips that professional photographers have shared with us in the past, many of which I don't remember. I'm still snapping away against the sun half the time.
Well, one example would be, I think that device you just held up, the Samsung devices have the option where you can change the megapixels, so you can actually control the quality of the picture you want to take, and of course the more megapixels it is, the bigger the file size will be, but also the more quality the image will be too. So there's lots of settings like that. Robin's right.
Yeah, this is true, and that's a good point. The more megapixels your shot takes, the higher the storage needs will be, and if you're sharing it, of course it'll take longer for it to either compress and go or be able to be sent away. So that's another important tip to remember about that. So one of the things that we like to talk about is just the practical uses of photography and how fun it is to do these with your kids, right? Since images are such a part of the storytelling process, I'd love to know if you have any ideas or any stories on how you've used the camera with your kids, you know, for sort of a family bonding moment.
Well, before I give you that, when you bring up images and kids, I think it's always important to let everyone know that make sure if your kids have devices, smartphones, and they're taking pictures, make sure the location services are turned off on the camera, on your smartphone, because you always want to take precautions, right? And I know I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and she's snapping pictures all day, post them online, Snapchat, Instagram, you name it. So safety, number one. Number two, you know, in the old days, you had the Polaroid camera and you took the picture and it came out instantly. Well, now you've got the smartphone, and I keep my phone in my pocket, so no matter what moment we're having, if I'm outside throwing football with my son and I see something I want to take a picture of, my camera's right there. If I'm at school with my daughter and she's having some kind of an event for school and I want to take pictures of it, I don't have to lug my big camera around. So I use my smartphone almost exclusively, like I was telling you earlier.
Mm-hmm. One of the fun practices that we had started is early on, before your child maybe has the right to have a phone, is give them one of the cameras or give them a smartphone that's not activated, that you can give them an assignment. You know, you go on vacation and you can say your assignment is to record the vacation and images. So whatever images you take, you need to decide which one, you know, captures the moment for all of the places we're going to see. And it's such a creative process to watch your kids at really at any age. You could do this, you know, from 5 to 15 or older if they'll agree to do it with you, because after a certain age, you know, it's up to them what they want to do, of course. But it's a really great exercise to say, here's a camera, we want you to tell the story of our trip or our vacation or a recital or whatever it is. It's your job to just take the pictures, give them this assignment, and you'd be amazed at how those stories come out and how compelling they can be and interesting, and of course you know, to be cherished forever.
And I think that's very important as far as kids' development in general. I mean, anytime they do anything creative, whether they're learning music or learning at school or learning how to take pictures, try not to control the situation. Let them make mistakes, because they're going to learn eventually, and those mistakes are important. You know, when they're taking pictures with a real camera or a smartphone, they're going to learn, they're going to develop their own eye, and it may not be the same one that you have. So that's always important to remember too.
Yeah, this is very true. So safety first, turn off location for the camera that you give your kids or the cell phone that you give your kids to have or to use, so nobody can pinpoint their exact location. And also just make sure that they understand the etiquette of taking photos of other people, other kids, and what is right and not right to post without people's permission. And so that's a great conversation to have anyway for everyone. But I think those two are really important tips that you shared with us today, Jason. Thank you so much for coming along. Any parting words of wisdom on how to take great smartphone photos?
I think everybody should just take more photos and use hashtags when you post them, you know, because I see a lot of people out there taking pictures and they'll show me on their smartphone what they've done, but they haven't posted it anywhere. And I'm like, you got to post that. That's incredible. So post more pictures, everybody.
This is so true. I think that at some point I remember saying too, liberate your photos. Don't keep them trapped in your smartphone or your computer. You know, share them. And I think Flickr is a great way to do it. Animoto is another way. There's so many scrapbooking apps as well. So release them into the wild. Share them with everyone. I want to remind everyone, if you're in the Virginia area, that Entelos is leaving the market, and so be sure to consider Verizon and Verizon Edge as your option. And in that Virginia area, very, very important move. Entelos is a provider there, and they're leaving the market. So be sure to choose Verizon and join us on all these chats if you have a chance. we're going to award the winner of today's Samsung Galaxy S5. And I'm very excited to say the S5 winner today is I Dream of Jen. Ha. I remember that show. Do you?
I do. It's a little before my time, but I remember.
Oh, yes, I remember. You're quite the youngster. And everyone, don't forget to join, if you're in the Wichita, Kansas area, to consider bringing your kids to the School of Rock. It's when do the cycles start, Jay, so that people know?
We just started our spring season last week, and so we'll be accepting enrollment in that up until mid-April. And so we encourage everybody to come check it out.
Great, great. I love the concerts that the kids do together and how they learn music together. Music is such a great foundation for learning languages, for critical thinking. It's such a great enrichment activity. Jason, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for joining us today. I am hoping that you will be back soon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Have a great weekend. And for the winner, I Dream of Jen, please send us a DM with your shipping information so we could send this right out to you. And that's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. I think that you know that we're going to be back here next Friday. And stay tuned for the theme of the chat, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much, everyone.